Look, we're joined now by former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley, regular on the programme. Good morning to you. One of the big issues that the Home Secretary really has to get a grip of is the crisis in policing. The Police Federation yesterday saying officer numbers are at dangerous levels now, to the stage where people will die as a result.
Well, we had Priti Patel yesterday, former Home Secretary, saying numbers at record levels.
Well, quite frankly, record numbers of police officers are leaving the job because they are delusioned, disheartened, worn out, and they find that the entire experience of being in policing completely unsatisfactory. And of course, that already has spilt out onto the streets, because let's just look at the last 3 or 4 days, for example. A 15-year-old girl loses her life to knife crime in Croydon, lives lost in Halifax, Leeds, and on Sunday night, another teenager in London butchered by savages on our streets. Crime is out of control. Knife crime is running rampant. Policing has lost its way, and consequently, we are all a bit more at risk.
And yet, Peter, as I was saying, Priti Patel speaking yesterday, and she was talking about how shoplifting should be prosecuted and taken more seriously and whatever. And you look at the litany of crimes that you've just recounted there, and you think, really, where are we getting the numbers? There is not so many officers that they can afford to go and check whether someone's stolen a Mars bar or not.
Yes, unfortunately, what's happened to policing in the last couple of decades is that it's become reactive rather than proactive. And what I mean by that is that officers sit in their cars and travel from one 999 call to another. They do not patrol the streets. That has been surrendered some time ago, and consequently, it's the criminals who act with impunity, who rule the roost on our streets, and consequently, we have record numbers of shop workers being assaulted, 800 a day, people being murdered on our streets with knives and machetes in yet again record numbers. So despite what the politicians may espouse, the truth of the matter is we are far less safe than we used to be. The streets need to be made a hostile environment for criminals. That's what the public want. That's what we need. And policing has, quite frankly, lost its way and needs to reconnect with the Robert Peel principles of 200 years ago and the needs, wishes, desires of the great British public.
Yeah, but as you say, violent crime up, prosecutions down, and I notice you say politicians. Do you accuse Labour of the same things? I mean, obviously it's Labour conference next week. Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper will be making a speech. Do you have any hope that things will get better if there were to be a Labour government next year?
Politicians will play politics with policing. They always do. Whatever flavour, whatever aspect of the political spectrum they come from. And policing will always say, we want independence from politics, we want operational control over what we do. But the bottom line is, those senior officers who prowl the corridors of power, they love rubbing shoulders with politicians. And if you look at the current Metropolitan Police Commissioner, when he took his short break away from policing and wrote a lamentable book, he had a former Home Secretary endorse it on the front cover, which just goes to show what a ludicrous appointment he was, because he didn't have any political impartiality. So the police will say one thing and do something completely different. That is the senior police leaders. Meanwhile, the courageous men and women on the front line get trampled on, not only by the villains, but by managers who fail to support them and supervise them properly. They get disheartened. They're leaving in droves. Britain is becoming increasingly unsafe.